So we're going to take this next project into a couple different steps, much like we did with the previous projects. We're going to create a loop first, get that nailed down. That's going to be a quick one because we've done loops a couple of times. Then we're going to get back into that loop and we're going to start to perform the actions of copying the data, calling the other procedures, and so on, getting everything that needs to happen within that loop. So we'll break it into those two sections. So first step, let's get our loop rolling inside of this new project. So open in front of you, I've got the quarterly report.xlsm. Now it's already a macro enabled document, so it's already got some of the code that we wrote in the previous projects. It's already in there. We're going to take advantage of what we've already done. We're not going to have to rewrite it and so on, and we're going to include that inside of our loop. So we've got 5 worksheets here. We got the East records, we got the West records, we got the North records, South records. Now you'll notice each of these worksheets, they should look familiar. It's the same data that we worked with in the previous exercises, but they're missing the headers. That's something we need to do. They're missing the calculation. That's something else we need to do. And then we got this yearly report. This one is going to contain all of the data from the previous 4 reports, all inside of one spot for these 4 different regions. So let's get in and start to create the loop. So I'm going to open up my VBA window. I'll go Developer, Visual Basic. Let's pull that over here. Now when you get in there, you're going to see 3 procedures that we created earlier. We got the Automate Sum procedure. This is the one that goes through and finds the last cell, does the calculation, the whole sum function. And then we got the Add Headers. That's the one for the new row and all of your headers at the top. And then we got the one for the format headers. So those 3 are already done. You created those earlier. No need to recreate that. But we do need to create the new procedure that's going to take those 3 and loop them, plus some more. So let's get our loop done. And this will be quick. So I'm going to go ahead and just type it out here. I'll say public sub. I'm going to call it final report loop. All right, there's the name of my new procedure there. So create our loop. You can probably do this with your eyes closed now. I'm going to say dim. I'm going to create my variable as integer. And we'll go ahead and initialize I to being 1. And I'm going to do another do while loop. Oops, do while I is less than equal to. Now how many worksheets do we have? Right? Remember that whole story? I want to build a loop through every worksheet within this workbook. So we get our worksheets object, and we get back into that count property. Now there's one more thing that we're going to do here with this loop, and then I'll talk some more about that here in a moment. Let me go ahead and finish this one off. We got our loop. Let's go ahead and take I and make it equal to I plus 1. There we have it. Just create a little bit of space there. All right. There's our loop. Okay, plain vanilla, pretty simple do while loop. And we're going to loop while I is less than or equal to the worksheets count. Now, this loop, it's really going to do a couple of things for us. One, it's going to make a call to each of these procedures, add headers, format headers, and automate sum. It's going to do all of that for us on each worksheet. But then it's also going to copy the data from each worksheet and paste it into the yearly report worksheet. Now these 3, automate sum, add headers, and format headers, we want to do those 3 procedures, let me move this over here, on East, West, North, and South worksheets, those 4 worksheets. We don't want to do those on the yearly report. Yearly report is currently empty. We're eventually going to copy the data from these worksheets and paste it in here all together into one location. That'll create our yearly report. Now, how can we stop the loop from performing its actions, the add headers, format headers, and automate sum on the yearly report? So if I get my loop back over here, it's currently going to loop while I is less than or equal to the worksheet count. We only want to do it 4 times. I don't want to do it 5. So we talked about this earlier, I could put 4 in there. Just ignore number 5. We're not even going to do it there. But what happens if somebody adds another legitimate region? Now we got 5 regions plus the 6th yearly report. Well, now I have to come back into my code and I have to adjust that. So I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to put a hard static value inside the loop here. Well, I shouldn't say that. There might be causes for you to need that. If it's never going to change, then great. But if you want it to be more dynamic, you're going to want to come up with another way. Now, worksheets.count, what does that really contain? It's a number. It's how many worksheets are in the workbook. In this case, we got 5. North, East, South, West, and the yearly report. Okay. Well, I want to do it for the 4 times minus the yearly report. So I'm literally just going to do that. I'm just going to subtract 1 off of the count of the worksheets object. That's it. Don't include the yearly report. It's the last one in there. It's the 5th one in there. Give me the count minus that one. That's it. So there's our loop. And I can get my loop, I can kind of get it started here. Now as it gets to each worksheet, we got to tell it to go to a specific worksheet, right? Worksheets I. That way it'll go to each respective worksheet as it loops. Let's select it. Oops, let's make sure I spell that right. Select. Now as it gets to each worksheet, we're going to call the add headers. We're going to call the format headers. And we're going to call the automate sum. Now we're taking everything that we've done up to this point and we're bringing it all together into this one master procedure called final report loop. Now go ahead and get this part done. We're not done yet. There's still more that we need to do. Right now all this is going to do is go to each of the regional worksheets, Northeast, Southwest, and clean them up, add the headers, format the headers, and create the calculation. But ultimately, the next step, once it does all the pretty work, is then we want to copy that data and put it inside of the final report worksheet, okay, or the yearly report worksheet, whatever that one's called there. So get this part done. Get your loop done. Make a call to your procedures. Don't run it yet, but make a call to your procedures. And then we'll jump into the next video, and we're going to talk about some stuff we haven't done yet. We're going to now talk about copying data, pasting data, positioning the data appropriately before we paste it. We're going to talk about a few other things here inside of VBA. So get ready for that. But first, create the loop, get your calling procedures in there, make sure that looks good, and then we'll jump into the next segment.